let's move on. Big week. This is a big week. Good week to have Andy on because the baseball genius is our pod's baseball genius is on the clock here. MLB free agency. Couple ones to just get through before we get to the obvious Bogarts debacle, which is an absolute fumble of the bag. Um, Judge stays in New York, which I think was critical to us not landing Bogarts. I thought there was a chance he was going to go to the Padres. And if he went to the Padres, I feel like we would have had Bogarts in the bag. I think we would have re-signed him. I think when what's his name? When Turner went to the Phillies, I felt better about us signing him because
Right.
that's where I thought he was going to go. And
Yeah.
then Padres came out of nowhere. I was like, well, they have Tatis, but they still have the money, so maybe if Judge goes there, it's better. And they kind of swung and missed on a lot of big free agents this year. So I mean, I think they just threw as much money at Bogarts again. But Judge stays in New York, which I'm shocked. I thought that guy was going to leave. He said, "I'm more about legacy this year than the money," and he went with the money. So,
Yeah.
which I mean, I can't blame him. Someone throws you 9 years in a huge—I forget what the money actually worked out to, but
I think it was
I would go with the money.
360, I think.
Yeah, I would go with the money as well. Um, the Mets are building something special with that starting rotation. They're spending money galore. What's his name? Nimmo. I
Brandon
never.
Nimmo, yeah.
Yeah, he played pretty well for them last year. Um, they always have Dave Griffin waiting in the wings in
Yep.
the minors. So
They keep signing all
someone
these starting pitchers though. Poor Griff is
poor
getting
yeah,
bumped. Give the guy a chance.
give the guy a chance. I mean, you know what I told Griff? I said when he came on the podcast, I said, Griff, you're gonna make your money in the big leagues as a bullpen guy. You're gonna come
Yeah.
out of the bullpen and shove for an inning or two, and that long inning relief. I said that's gonna be Griff's bread and butter. He wants to
Yeah.
be a starter, but I think the long inning relief is where it's at for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Mets are just spending money. They're going to become a threat next year.
How
You
about
just
just to cut you off really quick? How about I saw on Twitter last night with they just signed the Senga Kodai Senga from Japan or whatever. So
yeah.
they're saying now that the Mets payroll is so high that the tax that they're going to have to pay is higher than like four other teams. Actually, like the tax is like
I saw that
80. It's like $80 million, which is more than like four other teams' total payrolls.
higher than the Athletics. I want to say the Rays,
The Marlins and the
the
Orioles, I think.
Marlins, and maybe or it might have been. I don't know if the Rays were in there, but definitely the A's, Marlins, and Orioles and maybe the Rays payrolls. It was like by a couple million too. Like
Yeah.
I think the A's, it was like $30 million more
Oh yeah.
than
Oh yeah.
Billy
Crazy.
being in Oakland.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean they don't care about spending.
No.
And I mean, I got excited. I should have known this. I've been a Sox fan long enough to once I start getting excited, I know the bottom's going to fall out. I thought Jensen was such a good signing for the Sox. I mean, that kind of shored up their bullpen. I mean, they've already made a couple of acquisitions in their bullpen to kind of tighten it up, but I think Kenley put it over the top.
Yep.
I thought they needed an outfielder, and this guy from Matsuzaka, Yoshidara, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
something like that. I think he's a good outfield. We'll have to see. It's tough to tell when these like the guys from Japan come over and play. It's tough to tell who's going to be a stud and who's not. But
Right.
the eye test says he's going to be a pretty good outfielder for us, and it fills a hole that we had. If we kept Bogey, I would have felt so much better about this team. But they dropped the ball, they fumble the bag, and Bogarts gets this deal that the Red Sox wouldn't have matched in years. And to be honest
Yeah.
with you, I don't think I would have wanted the Red Sox to match the deal. 11 years for that much money, paying a guy that's 30 years old, you're going to be paying him over $35 million till he's 41 years old.
Yeah.
That's not a deal you're going to make. But the reason I'm upset is that we should have got this deal done last spring or even a
Yes.
spring before that.
Yep.
And honestly, if you were going to offer him the deal, which was like 6 years, I think he would have got paid
160, I
37,
think.
something like that. It would have made like a little extra higher year per. I think it was like 37 million a year. Why not offer to him in the spring? Like, what did you
Yeah.
think you were going to be able to short him? It's like
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a total underestimated of the shortstop market by Bloom or they just didn't want him. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. Either is it an unexcusable answer And I'm just so disappointed. It's yet another Red Sox legend who's not going to
Yeah.
finish his career in one uniform. It's embarrassing, to be honest with you. And John Henry should be ashamed of himself.
Yeah, I think for me, like, Bloom's catching a lot of heat, rightfully so. But for me, it boils down to John Henry. Like, the dude
Right.
hasn't shown his face and done an interview in 4 years. Like, we hired Chaim Bloom, and his first move was to trade Mookie Betts, not because Chaim Bloom wanted to trade Mookie Betts, but
Right.
because ownership said, you got to trade this guy. And then they spin this message that we're trading Mookie so that we can get under the tax to then in the future have the payroll flexibility to keep our core. Who's our core? Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers. Right now, it looks like Rafael Devers is probably going to end up getting traded if we don't
Right.
figure this out. Like, why are we? I think the thing that bothers me the most about this ownership group, and it's really hard to knock them when you think about how they revitalized Fenway Park. We've won 4 World Series championships in the last 20 years, so it's hard to get mad. But at the same time, like, what are we doing when we're constantly letting guys walk out the door, a la John Lester, a la Mookie Betts, a la Xander Bogaerts, but then we're throwing money at people like Pablo Sandoval, at Carl Crawford?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing that I think makes a lot of Red Sox fans mad is that they keep changing the spin zone of this, like what they're doing for this, like why they're doing certain moves. Like, I agree that Bloom, I think, took the job kind of knowing he had to trade Mookie. Like, that was part of the agreement of getting the job. You had to come in and trade Mookie Betts when his value was probably couldn't have been any lower because he was a free agent at the end of the year. He's going to command big money, and there was only certain teams he would sign with.
Right.
So there was only certain teams you could trade him to, and they're not going to give a lot of money because they're going to get him next year. I mean, a lot of pieces up for him because they're going to get him next year. And I thought, in the grand scheme of things, I think Alex Verdugo. I think people like 2 years ago they were saying Alex Verdugo is like a steal. I mean, at some points he was outperforming Mookie offensively, in parts of that season last year. Not this past year, the year before when they made it to
Yeah.
the ALCS. Um, so like people were like, "Oh, see, that was a Bloom's making big brain moves, like it's
Yeah.
this and that." But so I don't put that on. I put that on ownership. I just don't like how they keep spin zoning it. Like you said, we're going to trade Mookie so we have money to retain the core, which is Bogarts and it is Bogarts and Devers. Those are the guys
Yeah.
you want to resign. You just let Bogarts leave. Now Devers is probably gone. And like I made the argument this past couple of weeks, like you let Bogarts leave, that's a change in culture shift for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
This is not just one, but two major big name homegrown talent players that you're letting walk out the door. Mookie was traded, but you were going to let him out the door.
Right.
These guys that should have retired Red Sox with Red Sox jerseys on.
Yeah.
And now if I'm a guy like Devers, or even I'm as young as, Cassis, Bello, eventually
Meyer.
Marcelo Meyer,
Yeah.
it's like these guys aren't going to want to pay me when I'm ready for my first big contract. So why am
Yeah.
I going to wait around here? And I'll play a couple years for them, great. But like you said, I'm going to play in a high stress environment. Why am I going to do that when you're not going to pay me in the end? So just trade me
Yeah.
now. Like I feel
Yeah.
like, or when it comes down to it, they're not going to like Bogarts took the original deal that was kind of like a steal it was a hometown discount deal.
Yeah.
Devers is now going to want every dime of it because he's like, all right, you don't want to give it a Bogey, give it to me. I'll take all
Yeah.
the money. And it's
Yeah.
like, or I'll go play with him next year because like I'm a free agent next year. I'll go play in San Diego. I just think it's bonehead moves. It's total fumble of the bag. And I think you're right. I think falls on John Henry. We haven't seen him in 4 years. He just sold his soccer team, so everyone was like, "Oh, maybe he'll spend more money." But I think the real story is he's going to go buy the Washington Commanders and
Yeah.
try to become an NFL owner, which he probably will make more money as an NFL owner. So it makes sense. But I just wish he'd do us all a favor. Like you said, he did win us 4 championships. So I wish we could just say thank you very much, but sell the team so we can move on and have someone that really cares about this team winning now and trying
Right.
to bring in guys and saying, all right, well, the Mets are paying more money in cap than 4 other teams are paying for rosters. So
Yeah.
it's like, why not? Why can't we spend a little bit? I'm not saying spend the Mets money, But I'm saying spend what we have to do to retain guys early. Like Devers should have been done last year. Bogart should have been done last year.
Right.
And like now, instead of worrying about this whole offseason, instead of worrying about Bogarts and Devers, we could have put all our attention in trying to get like, a couple of these starters that are going away now, like Nimmo or I'm looking at some of the other guys like Carlos Rendon or I don't know, retaining. I'm not a big Evaldi guy, but maybe retaining Evaldi, maybe getting
Yep.
Waka, maybe even getting Noah Syndergaard in.
Yep.
Like trying to add where already there. Now we just create. That's what the problem with the Red Sox have been. They just create more holes. They fill a hole, but then they basically take a. If they think of it as a ship and it's holes in it, we have a plug for one hole. We're taking it out and putting in another one, but that doesn't
Yeah.
do any good because the other hole is filling with water.
Yep.
So it's like this team I don't think is bad. Like everyone's saying this is going to be a 50-win team. They're going to be dumpster. I still think it's a good enough team to win games, like because they
Right.
did fix the bullpen. Their starters aren't terrible. It's not good, but it's not terrible. And I think they're
Right.
going to add another starter by the end of the
Agreed.
offseason. Between Walker or Evaldi, I think they'll bring one of those two guys back. But now you just have a big hole at shortstop, and you have a big hole in the locker room because, like,
Right.
that's a guy that's been in here for over 10 years, and the guys lean on him. It's like a Poppy or Mookie kind of guy. They lean on him, and now who's your veteran in that locker room? I mean, I guess
It is Raffy, and he's still
Raffy.
only 16.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? It's like with Bogey. It's like, like I talked about, like the guy has proven over the course of 10 years that he can perform in Boston. Like the reason that Trevor Story came to Boston, he said it. Xander Bogaerts recruited me here. Like
right.
Bogaerts was the guy. Like, I'm obviously not a Yankee guy, but like for me, like he should have been our Derek Jeter. And like a lot of people were saying that like he was so similar to Jeter in the fact that like he was an okay defensive shortstop, good offensive shortstop, but had all the intangibles. Like those are the guys that you don't let walk away. Like he's your heart and soul. Like you traded Mookie. Mookie was your best player. Xander wasn't your best player, but Xander was a very, very good player who was everything that your organization identified as.
Right.
And that guy's just gone now. Like he's just gone. Right. And you're getting a fourth round pick. You're going to get a fourth round pick as compensation. And dude, that could work out. Mookie Betts was a 10th or 11th rounder. Like it could work out, but like that's what we got back for our generational shortstop who came up and won a World Series as a 20-year-old kid. Like it just, I don't know. It's a frustrating time to be a Red Sox fan. Like you said, like we don't know what direction they're going in, but you know what? Like we're still going to show up and pay $19 for a Bud Light, and we're still going to sing Sweet Caroline, and they're going to be printing money, and the owners are going to be perfectly fine. Like John Henry, if he truly cared about, and I get it, like you're not going to make every roster move based on what the fans want. That's not sustainable. But like you have a guy that is beloved by the fan base. Like this is the type of guy you lock up.
I can't blame them for not offering 11 years, $380 million. I can't blame them for not offering that and not willing to match that because it's crazy. I'm not willing to give Xander Bogaerts, as much as I love him, 11 years, $380 million. But I'm willing to give him 7 to 6 years for 100 and 100 whatever it was 160 whatever they offered him last spring. Like that's like they offered him 4 years, $90 million. That's a slap in the face to your generational player and your franchise, like your face of your franchise. Like Cora said, he doesn't have the seat, but he's the captain of this team.
Right.
And it's like you're just letting him walk out the door.
I mean, I think about it too. Like we talk about they've won 4 World Series. You win that first one in 2004. And then in 2007, you still had that nucleus of Poppy, who was there in 2004, Manny, who was there in 2004, Tech, who was there in 2004, all those guys, Schilling. And then when you win it in 2013, you still had Poppy, you had Pedroia, you had guys that had been there in 2007. When you win it in 2018, even though he was hurt, you had Pedroia, you had Bogaerts, who was a young kid in 2013. There's no one left here that's won a World Series outside of Sale, Barnes, and Devers. Like your history, like that those 18 to 20 years that we've been winning World Series, it's all gone now. Like Xander should have been like that next link to like the next World Series championship to pass that mantle on. Like
Right. It's
like
like the poppy.
yeah, all that history is now like there's no one left that's connected to it. Like that the chain has been broken in my mind.
Yeah, it's not a good time to be a Red Sox fan because I really don't see where they're going to go. And I said going into the offseason, I did give them the Red Sox this leash to not sign
Yeah.
Xander Bogaerts. I said if they don't sign Xander Bogaerts, I won't be happy about it, but I will be able to accept it if they sign a big name free agent like Judge or Correa. If they went out tomorrow and said we're signing Carlos Correa to like a 7 year, I don't think they're going to do it because I think he's going to require like 10 years, probably the same thing as Bogey. But if they and he's a year younger, so I don't think they're going to do it. But if he said, "Hey, we're signing Correa to like a 8 year, 9 year deal, big money," I could at least say, "All right, we're letting Bogarts walk for an equal to maybe a better player. He's not going to be the same in the locker room, like what he means to the
Right.
locker room, but Correa can fill that role as your star shortstop, just
Yes.
like and he fills the hole. Like Judge would have filled the hole. You were missing that home run threat in the lineup last year because you let all your home run guys go,
Mm-hmm.
and he fills the outfield hole. So he fills two holes. If you sign Judge, then it fills two holes, and it hurts the Yankees, which is an even bigger thing.
Right.
So if they come out tomorrow and say, "Hey, we're signing uh, Correa," I could at least say, "You know what? I love Bogey, but we got this generational player." It's like, all right,
Yeah.
I can kind of see the trend. That's not going to happen.
Right.
There's rumors that Dansby Swanson is we're still on a Dansby Swanson, but I think he's going to go to the Dodgers because they just
Yeah.
lost Trey Turner and Swanson and Freeman have a good connection. So
Right.
I think they're gonna link up in L.A.
I also look at it like this. Like I'm really high on Marcelo Meyer. I think he's going to be the guy. My idea with signing Bogey was Bogey stays at shortstop for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
And then in 2 to 3 years, when Marcelo is ready, Marcelo is your shortstop, and Bogey slides to third, and Devers becomes your DH. I don't know if I want to do that with Carlos Correa. Like, if
Yeah.
that's the case, like just find a stopgap. Go out and trade for Willie Adames from the Brewers, who are
Yeah.
dumping salary. That guy's got 2 years left on his deal. Perfect. Marcelo's ready in three, hopefully. I mean, obviously prospects are never a sure thing, but like
Yeah.
I think like that's the move now. Like now, if I was going to sign one of those two shortstops that are out there, it would be Correa. I'm out on Swanson. I love Swanson as a player, but I think
Yeah.
organizationally, like that doesn't make the most sense.
Right.
But for me, it's like I would have been okay with giving Bogey that, like you said, 7, 8 year deal, and in 2 to 3 years he becomes your third baseman, and Devers becomes your DH. But
Yeah.
now it's just like I think now we're getting to that point where I think you're going to see what people call Bloom doing his bargain shopping now. I think they're going to be looking for stopgaps. I think they're going to be looking for guys on shorter deals, unless it's Rodon. There's just no one out there that you're going to hand a big deal out to now at this point in free
It's
agency.
all
There's
gonna
no
be
one left,
1 2 years. Yeah.
you know.
It's all
So
one two. It's all
yeah,
old guys or that are really good, but it's all guys that are like
yeah,
at the end of their
right. They
career
have
looking
question
for one
marks.
year.
They have
Yeah.
question marks. So I think they, this offseason with the amount of financial flexibility that they appear to have had, they dropped the ball in my mind.
They wasted it. Guys I'd like them to sign right now that are kind of on the tape that I think are able, like realistic to sign is number one, Rendon.
Yep.
JD would probably be two. One of the two of Evaldi and Walker. They'll probably go with Evaldi because they know him more.
Yep.
Three, and then Mancini and Noah would be my chances I'd take on them. I think if they got them, I think you're able to salvage this offseason a little bit.
Right.
They still got to figure out the shortstop problem, but I think those guys kind of elevate around the shortstop, and then you can kind of struggle bust the shortstop position for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, like, I'm a big Syndergaard fan, but I think like with his history of injuries, there's already those question marks with like a Chris Sale who can't seem to stay healthy, James Paxton coming off injury. Um, I also like Evaldi and like to bring him back because I think when he's been here and he's been healthy, he's been really good. But again, it's a health question mark. Like how many times that guy in his career made 30 starts? It's only been once or twice. So I think like I've always been a big Noah Syndergaard fan. I just what are you going to get? Are you going to get? I don't think you're going to get that fringe Cy Young guy that we saw, when he was at his peak with the Mets. I think there's a high ceiling there, but I think there's also a really, really low floor where he could, really struggle. So for me, I'm I'm pushing my chips in on Carlos Rodon right now. Like, I know that the numbers tell me that they have, a lot of starting pitching, but like, go get a guy, go get a guy, and then if Chris Sale turns back into close to what Chris Sale used to be, then great, you have two dudes at the top of your rotation. Like, go get Carlos Rodon. Like, that's what you have to do in my mind to salvage the offseason. And that's not really talking about the trade market. Who knows what's out there for trades? I mean, the
Right.
Braves just got Sean Murphy from the A's today, so that was a big name, catcher that was on the board. Maybe we're able to swing a deal for a controllable starting pitcher. I don't know. I'm looking for a guy that I know can go out there and take the ball every 5 days. And there isn't. I mean, there's injury risk with every pitcher, but give me a guy that traditionally has stayed healthy.
Yeah, I'm looking at our starting rotation now, and I know they said they want to put Garrett Whitlock in the starting rotation, which I just think is a mistake. I'm not really that high on that move. I'd much rather see him out of the pen be the eighth inning guy because I just think he's so dominant in that role. Um, but right now, your starting pitchers are Chris Sale, Nick Pivetta, Paxton, Bello, Cutter Crawford, and Jolie Rodriguez.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel comfortable if Sale's healthy and him. But that's a big if. I mean, he hasn't started more than probably 2 games in the last like 4 years. Nick Pavetta's like a solid like 5 starter. I'm hoping
yeah,
Brian Bello takes a step forward. But if we're putting our faith in James Paxton, Cutter Crawford, Chris Sale, I mean, I would love to think Chris Sale is healthy, but I think you're 100% right. That's why I put Rendon. Is it Rendon or
Rodon.
Rodon?
Yeah,
I would love them to sign Rendon because I think it gives you a little more flexibility. Like if you move Cutter Crawford even to Worcester, I don't think that's a big deal for your starting rotation. I
yeah,
mean, even if you move him him and Paxton to the bullpen, even if you move Whitlock I think they should sign more starters to get Whitlock back in the pen.
yeah,
I just think it's a good idea, and I mean, you got to assume Chris Sale's going to miss some time at some point this
right,
year.
right.
Um, I would like them to sign 2 starters. I like them to sign Rendon and then take a chance on a guy like Evaldi, Syndergaard, or maybe even Walk. I'm high on Walk. I liked what I
Yeah,
saw last year when he was healthy. I thought he was our best starter at points in the year. Um,
yep,
but then if you do that, if you sign 2 of those guys and you go and say you move, you go into a rotation with Chris Sale, Pavetta, Bello, uh, Rendon, and maybe even Syndergaard or Evaldi as your 5. I mean, that's a
yeah,
solid rotation. Then you have Paxton
yeah,
as a backup guy to slide in. You have Whitlock to do spot starts. You have, you have in your bullpen, you have Whitlock. You can probably move Paxton in the bullpen as a long relief guy. I wouldn't mind seeing that. And then you can get Tanner. You have Tanner Houck, Matt Barnes, Kenley Johnson. Like you have a solid deep bullpen. Chris Martin. Like you have a deep
yeah,
bullpen, and I think for the first time in years, I think this team is going to be carried by their pitching because it's
yeah,
been carried by their offense for the last probably 5 to 6 years, and
yep.
it'll be fun to see them, actually have a starting rotation that is competitive. Another guy that I kind of like. I don't think they'll sign him, but he's kind of one of those guys that's getting to. It'll be like a like the second wave or third wave of free agent is Michael Brantley from the
Yeah,
Astros. I kind of like him because he brings power bat to your lineup, which is something you're struggling with, especially if you
yep,
don't sign JD or a guy
yeah.
like Trey Mancini. Like he can kind of fill in that role as the DH guy or outfielder that will bring some power. So I wouldn't
And
mind seeing
he's a
him.
really really good professional hitter too. I feel like he would help out with Casas. He would probably help Verdugo. Just a really, I mean, the guy's been a high level, very good hitter for his entire career. It's spanned a long time. So yeah, that'd be a
Yeah.
great signing.
But yeah, I mean, definitely disappointed to see Bogarts leave. I mean, that's another guy that I don't know if he'll be in the. Do you think he makes the Hall of Fame? As of, I don't think so. As much as I love him, but
I don't think so either. Unless all of a sudden he has like a crazy jump in power numbers. It's just so hard to get to 3,000 hits nowadays, and even that's not a shoe in. He's probably never going to win a Gold Glove. I mean, yeah, he's won 2 World Series, but I just don't think the numbers will be there in the end. Great player, obviously. I mean, he's got 5 Silver Sluggers to this point in his career, and multiple All-Star bids. Probably not a Hall of Famer though.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just disappointing to see him in a different uniform now.
yeah, definitely. 'Cause, now we have two guys that I guess you have to add it to the curse. We've seen multiple franchise play Brady, Mookie,
Yeah,
Bogarts. I mean, I think
it's
Poppy might have been already retired, but we're just seeing more and more guys. Andy Theriault out of the Brockton Rocks, just
I know.
franchise
Oh,
players
yeah,
out during
it's
this big
crazy.
red zone run.
Yep, yep. There's a Wheaties box curse, a Madden box curse, and the Big Red Zone curse.
It's definitely.
Yeah,
I'm glad. I guess I'm glad that we're ending this so we can end this curse.
yeah,
We can get Bogey back to Boston, Mookie back to Boston, Andy
yeah,
back to Brockton.
yeah, yeah.